Welcome back. This is Chicken Philosophy, the secret of the golden flower. Part 30, in which we will pick up right where Edward left off in part 29. If you would like to see part 29 or any of the other parts. If you want to start at the beginning, then you'll hear 5 episodes of introduction. If you want to hear the text, there's somewhere in this book, there's a thing that they're calling the secret of the golden flower, in between the introduction at the beginning and the introduction at the end. If you want that, episode 6 is the one you're looking for. Here's the playlist. Bye-bye to those who are leaving us. Okay, that's out of the way. Next, the incense. Do we do incense first or beverage first? So this is, I don't know what used to be in this, but this is nice. It's a nice incense holder. I think the incense came in this. I could probably use this again. Hence, this empty incense container is here. What is here? Well, it used to be Nagarjuna. I would turn it upside down so you could read that properly, but then all the incense would spill out of it. Inside of it, I am right in this moment discovering. Because what happened was we moved. So before, this was filled with random, unlabeled, unknown incenses of various kinds, and I have hundreds of incenses. So incense that I look at and I smell and I go, I don't know what this is, end up in here. But it seems that in the move, this became a convenient way to transport these incenses from Aroma Garden in mostly Tamil Kathmandu, Nepal, but I wouldn't put it past me to have also gotten some from Aroma Garden in Rishikesh, India. So they're good. I recommend them. The guy's nice, and his whole family's nice. They were recommended to me by my friend Cliff, who you can see here at our wedding. I hope you don't mind, Cliff, me showing that. Hopefully YouTube won't randomly decide to make that the thumbnail. But yeah, so he was there with on the bride's side. There was mostly, well, anyway, long story short, there were like 30 or 40 people. And then on the groom's side, there were 2. There was my buddy Cliff, who I met in a hotel in Kathmandu 2 years before the wedding. And he's from Australia. And then his friend from Italy, I believe. Or she was from England but living in Italy. Anyway, so they happened to be in the state. We were in the southernmost tip of India, having our wedding there at the Ishvara temple, very small, cute temple. Anyway, so he had told me back in the day that I should go to Aroma Garden. So I did, and that's the story. All right. So we've spent enough time on the incense, I think, by now. I don't know what this is, but I grabbed it. It is aromatic Himalayan juniper dupe. Cool. This, I actually remember, came from the one in Rishikesh. Or Varanasi. Not Rishikesh. I think they have one in Rishikesh now. I think there's 3. Anyway, so that's what we're going to light. And I usually like to have like a candle off screen somewhere so that you don't have to hear this. Sometimes when I'm absent-minded, I do that right by the microphone, and then that's annoying. I find it annoying, so why would I want to put it on something that you're going to hear too? Juniper sounds like Jennifer. Jennifer comes from Guinevere, as in Arthur's unfaithful spouse. but I don't know the way. Like in the movie Excalibur, anyway, Arthur was being a bit of a douche canoe during that whole. So I don't. Maybe we should read the book, or a book. I don't think that's the original book. I think there was some lore that came before that, but this kind of helped establish like some. Like Christmas, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, wasn't it a song that came out in the 50s that somebody just invented off the top of their head, and now, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is part of Christmas lore, and so it was with at least Catholicism. And if Martin Luther had his way, that's not what Catholicism would have been like, But yeah, that's how everything is. That's how Vajrayana Buddhism is. Like, and then what happened? Oh, and then you know what happened? And then another generation. Oh, and then what happened? Well, this happened. Well, why is it like this? Because of this, or maybe because of this. It's both. And then there's whatever I was talking about just then. That also is like that. Okay, that's done. The beverage is coffee. But I put a little more milk in it than I usually do. And there's no sugar or jaggery. That's not bad if you like milk. I do. I don't know if it's a good thing to like milk. But, I mean, it's not very nice to... I was vegan for years, so I know all the the reasons not to drink milk. But then I got back into it. And then my inner child came out and was like, I really like drinking milk. Never mind. Yeah. I'll just... the next thing we do when we're doing Secret of the Golden Flower is we draw a card from the I Ching deck, because we were flipping coins for a while and it became quite a common occurrence that we would end up with a figure we had gotten already. So since all 64 are individual cards, then what I do is after we pull the card, I put it somewhere else. And so these are all I Ching figures that look like this that we have not gotten yet on Secret of the Golden Flower. So let's see what our guiding compass message will be for this reading. It is triple unbroken.
He meant triple broken.
Solid, double unbroken.
He meant double broken.
Okay, hey, Editor Edward.
Yes?
It's a nice outfit, Editor Edward.
I always wear a suit to the office.
Okay. Dave, was that his older brother's name? Okay. I was going to ask you something, but that comes later. But for now, could you turn up the music while I look this one up? That's Earth. Earth is triple unbroken. I've learned something. I've absorbed one piece of information. I think triple solid is heaven. We're going to do a deep dive into I Ching after we finish. We're going to do Tao Te Ching first, but... Okay, thunder is Chen. That's the one that has a solid on the bottom and then two brokens above it. So this is Earth Thunder, which is figure 16. You enthusiasm. Hey, that's pretty cool. That's a good one. Let's bring up the tone scale. Editor Edward, what's the tonal number or whatever for enthusiasm?
4.0. is enthusiasm.
All right, so it's not that bad. There's sort of like a wink, like once you get past boredom, if you go from boredom is like neutral, and then if you go down from there, then it's anger, hostility, covert hostility, and all the way down to total failure, you know. But if you get above boredom, then you get like mild interest, and then eventually enthusiasm, cheerfulness, whatever, and then eventually serenity of beingness. And so then there's a question, is the goal to get up there and then be stuck there? Well, no, not necessarily. The goal is to have the ability to move up and down, hence acting is a good application of Scientology. All right, let's take that on the scale. This isn't about that. This is about ancient Chinese philosophy. Okay. Proper enthusiasm opens every door. Don't open that door though. But Scientology is fine, man. Not the organization. Stay the fuck away from those crazy people, you know. But you can. Should I do this? Yeah. I'll put a link in the description below. If the link is not there, it's because I had to remove it. But one of the few places where you can get the technical dictionary, the terminology used. See, what I say, people complain, there's a lot of languages, and there's languages within languages, and then people come out and say, one of the ways that cults control their people is through language. And it's like, yes, and especially if you're coming at it from that angle. But also, groups of people develop their own language. Always. Like if you're entering into like the skater community or the ska community or the whatever community, then you're going to find that they have their own terminology. And then if there's a charismatic leader among them, then you can say, it's a cult. And you're probably right, you know. But the point is that if you learn the language, then you can communicate better with that cousin that went, you know, that black sheep of the family that joined that weird cult. If you learn the language of the cult, i.e. Martin Luther or Scientology, whatever it is, then it will help you to know where they're coming from and to be able to put things in terms they understand. If that's something you're interested in doing, not everybody is. I'm not, personally. I'm speaking out of different aspects of myself from different times, but my present day actual self, who's not sitting in front of the camera, the me that when I'm not sitting in front of the camera, I don't want to have anything to do with that shit. I mean, as far as like communicating with people who are lost, at least not directly, not one-on-one, not in chat. Sometimes people write me. You can write me. That's fine. You can write me with a question. If you say hi, I'll probably ignore it if I don't know you. But if you have a question, I'll probably answer. But if you say, can we chat? Because you mean that I need to lock myself in. I'm going to sit here and write to you, and you're going to write back, and then I'm going to write to you, and you're going to write back. And no, just be patient. Say what you want to say, and be patient for my response. And I'll respond 4 days later, and then you reply, and then I'll respond another 4 days later. That's what you get. You know, like I'm not gone from this earth, but you know, there's a reason I left. Anyway, I didn't leave to be at your beck and call still, and I'm not. All right, and now that's enthusiasm, good vibes, right? I've been watching a lot of Mark Mothersbaugh interviews, and it's nice to find the ones where he's like cheerful, because like when the interviewer is annoying, like you can see him trying like fake smiling his way through it. But then as he gets older, he looks at them like, the fuck is wrong with you? You know, he'll come out and say, what is what you're asking is the type of keyboard that I use? Like, well, obviously, you know, like, and then they go on to the next question. It's kind of refreshing to see him like that's who he was when he was 20 and he was fake smiling for the camera underneath. He was saying all that stuff, and now he's older and he can just say it. He doesn't care. It's nice, right? What are we talking about? Editor Edward. So this next section is number 2, animus and anima. And we already know quite a lot. I mean, a little. We know a little. So Carl Jung, when Carl Jung was going through his thing, anima is the word he uses for that soul, the soul that talks to him. Why are you so frisky today, Carl? You know that voice. When I do that voice when I'm reading black books, that's his anima, which is his higher self in the form of a lady. And so he surmised, based on wherever he got that idea, that every dude has a lady that they can talk to in their head that's their higher self or their soul or whatever. This is the Cliff Notes, like the inaccurate. This is the coughing up what I heard when I was a kid about it. And so then he concluded that, ladies must have like a dude, like a father type or dude, brother, male version of themselves, soul imprint that they talk to. Like since it works for Carl, it must work for all men. And since women and men have different plumbing, then it must be reversed for women, I think is the math he's doing. Freud had similar math where he was like, let's see, I want to have sex with my mother. Oedipus did have sex with his mother. All men must want to have sex with their mother. And someone was like, well, what about the ladies? And he was like, they're fathers. They want to have sex with them. So, yeah, the early psychology was kind of simple. Early anything has things you could probably point to about it that are a little rough around the edges. But Editor Edward, could you, since you're sitting in front of one of those magical glowing screens where you can like look at Wikipedia and Google and shit, could you give us a little bit of insight as to like a pre-Carl Jung definition and the actual definition and origin of these words?
So the earliest origin is the Greek word anemos, which means wind. And Jung defines anima with its Latin derivation meaning soul. Animus can also mean spirit, mind, courage, or anger. Anima meaning a current of air, wind, air, breath, the vital principle, life, or soul.
Thank you, Editor Edward. And nice jacket. It reminds me rather of when we were in Shillong, and you bought that jacket, and there's a pigeon outside. No, it's a piece of plastic. I'm gonna make a playlist. The Shillong episodes. I'm gonna make a playlist. Yeah, I think so. It's only 2 episodes, though, isn't it? Pretty sure it's only 2 episodes. All right, I'm not gonna make a playlist. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to put an end screen today. And this isn't the first time I've brought this up. But there's people here who weren't here the last time I brought it up. So I'm going to bring it up again, just in case. When I was in Shillong, the episodes were good. I don't even want to spoil it too much. I will say the Teilhard de Chardin were better. And by better, I mean like more challenging. The Martin Luther are Martin Luther episodes. And the cool thing about it is I was wandering around Shillong, Meghalaya, India, and standing in front of all the churches. And if it was a Protestant church, I'd read Martin Luther. And if it was a Catholic church, I'd read Teilhard de Chardin. And then I edited them all together and made those 2 episodes. I think it's episode 14 of Teilhard de Chardin. That's the good one. You don't have to click it now because it'll be in the end screen. And part 8 of Martin Luther. That's enjoyable. It also is it has aspects to it that are kind of, But the Teilhard de Chardin is a little more, Gosh, I never looked at it that way. So that's why I recommend it a little more. So yeah, that's the origin of the pink jacket. He's doing a callback to the Shillong episodes. Okay. So this next section is called Anima, Animus, and Anima. Oh, I forgot to mention. And, I mean, the people who've been with us for the past 30 episodes already know this, but for the people who are jumping in, So when Richard Wilhelm is translating this Secret of the Golden Flower, which thank you for doing so, sir, he opted to translate certain words, Hun and Po, with a P apostrophe O, which are like, the soul, the spirit, and like the poopy parts of the body, and like some very lower aspects of the consciousness or something. So I guess, I don't know, that seems to be what they are. And so Richard Wilhelm was like, well, the more masculine one, the yang spirit, is more masculine, and the earth that we don't like in this paradigm is more feminine. I mean, kind of. Like, maybe earth isn't the right word. It can get confusing, because if you're talking about, like, let's bring up the tree of life. So that even is confusing. So the physical is very specific. The stuff that we as humans associate with the physical is much more related to the lower astral. In other words, we're experiencing the physical universe by way of the sensory data, and then the sensory data gets arranged in our mental space much the same way that a hallucination does. And color is the thing that only makes sense in context. It's not a thing like in physical reality, and then we make societies and cultures and have clashings and get locked in various ways and confused and tied in knots in various ways. And a lot of that stuff is oriented toward and stored in libraries or hard drives or whatever in the physical universe. So there's this close relationship between the lower buzzing part of the astral and the physical universe. But when you say earth, I mean, there's various contexts. In one context you would mean soil, in another context you would mean the third rock from the sun, the third planet in our solar system. In another context you'd mean the physical universe if you're talking in certain like circles. If you say earth, air, fire, and water, it's understood. When you say air, you don't mean but like that would be more like air of earth because it's physical air, perhaps. But yeah, so in this moment, in this context, like then there's the idea of the stuff below the earth, and there's like the shells and whatnot. And so when somebody in a religion or whatever, if you're looking at it through this terminology and this lens, and that's a bad habit because this is sort of a British, like we've got the ultimate way of looking at the universe, and that's the lens through which we're going to look at China and Hinduism. So it's important to realize that that's what you're doing when you're doing it, but it's also of assistance to do it when it makes sense to you, and it's good to be honest about when it makes sense to you. And it kind of like never mind. I'll just. So anyway, Richard Wilhelm decided to use the words animus and anima for some reason to describe this like Taoist alchemy concept of the Hun as animus and the Po as anima, which is a very specific definition that's different from Carl Jung's, which I'm guessing is different from whatever Editor Edward told you, which I don't know what it is because I haven't become Editor Edward yet. At least not Editor Edward of the whatever it is he's wearing today. Something from our wedding, probably. Okay. Now this is Carl Jung. Here we go. Jumping in. Let's switch up the music. Okay. According to our text, among the figures of the unconscious, there are not only gods, but also the animus and anima. The word Hun is translated by Wilhelm as animus. Indeed, the concept animus seems appropriate for Hun, the character for which is made up of the character for clouds, and that for demon. I'm sure it's an exact one-to-one translation of the English word that evolved from the Christian relationship with the Greek word. Yeah, there's a Chinese word that's just like that. They have an ancient Greece and a Christianity too. No, they don't. No, there you go. All right. Okay, sorry. Where were we? Thus Hun means cloud demon, a higher breath soul. Cloud demon, breath soul. Either one, both of those things. All right. Belonging to the Yang principle and is therefore masculine. After death, Hun rises upward and becomes Shen, the, quote, expanding and self-revealing, end quote, spirit, or God. Quote, anima, end quote, called Po, and written with the characters for white and for demon. So if anybody ever calls you a Po in Chinese, then they're accurately, and then if you look like me, then they're accurately describing you, but with a negative. Never mind. White demon. That is white ghost. Oh, okay. White demon, white ghost. So it's a soul if it's, or it's a ghost or demon, either, whatever. Demons, ghosts, souls, all that stuff. That What was it? I was working at that when I was 15. I was working at this book alley. Amazon was new, and he wanted me to make a website that was going to compete with Amazon. And I was like learning from this lady that worked at Norton Utilities. But then it turned out I was like also 15 and going on 16, and so my interests lay elsewhere. But I there was a moment where I had an in. I could have made like Amazon's big competitor, and then they would have bought us, and I would have started out with a bigger nest egg. But who cares that didn't happen? I like the way my life went. What was I saying? Yeah, so the guy that ran it, Peter, he was from Romania, and he was very, he was atheist, humanist, secular, rational person. And so he had all of the, like, witchcraft, thelema, Golden Dawn, like whatever, like some kind of ESP, like astrology, all that stuff, all that woo-woo. In conversation, he called it woo-woo. But on the label, on the shelf, that part of the bookstore, it said irrational phenomena. And so when I started working there, you can bet that I made a project of that, and I broke it down into like sections and subsections, and then like someone would wander in and be like, I want a book on how to do a spell. I need to do a love spell. And he'd be like, talk to Edward, and then I'd sit down and have okay, these are the options. This is simple. This will get you there. This will, but this is, if you're really serious, if you really want to like take this on as a lifestyle, then this is $80. So I don't know if you but this will get you, if you want to do a love spell, you want to do it tonight, this is real simple, and you can, and then they'd be like, thank you, I'll take the expensive one. And so then they'd walk out, and then Peter would give me a commission. That's how it worked. All right. That one time, that happened once. It's not like that was a common thing. Where were we? Yes. After death, it sinks down. Right, the demon, the Po, the anima. Written for white demon. White ghost belongs to the lower earthbound bodily soul, the yin principle, and is therefore feminine. So take that, Tony Wolf. I'm playfully pretending that that's in the subtext of what Carl Jung saying in 1930 about his patient / possibly girlfriend in 19-teens. I don't know. It's been a long time since book 1 of Black Books. They go into all that. By they I mean me, or Edward, whatever, Edward and Gwydion. The fact that the animus and the anima part after death and go their ways independently shows that for the Chinese consciousness, They are indistinguishable. They are distinguishable, the opposite, in fact, of indistinguishable, psychic factors which have markedly different effects, and despite the fact that originally they are united in the one effective true human nature, in the house of the creative, they are two. Quote, the animus is in the heavenly heart, end quote. Quote, the animus lives in the daytime in the eyes, parentheses, that is in consciousness, and parentheses. At night it houses in the liver, end quote. It is that, quote, which we have received from the great emptiness, that which is identical in form with the primal beginning, end quote. The anima, on the other hand, is the, quote, energy of the heavy and the turbid, end quote. It clings to the bodily. Yeah, like Eve, right? Right, Carl? Yeah, women. I hope it's clear that I'm sarcastically mocking both of these guys, who I respect. I respect Carl and Richard, but I don't know. Maybe they're accurately presenting the sexism inherent in Chinese medicine and philosophy, but they're doing it a little too enthusiastically. All right, where were we? Clings to the bodily, fleshly heart. Quote, desires and impulses to anger, end quote, are its effects. Quote, whoever is sombre and moody on waking, three dots, is fettered by the anima. End quote. Many years ago, before Wilhelm acquainted me with this text, I used the concept, quote, anima, end quote, in a way quite analogous to the Chinese definition of P apostrophe O. Now we get to see what he really thinks of his soul that he talks to in a different petal on the leaf flower, different flower petal of chicken philosophy. Never mind. What? And, of course, entirely apart from any metaphysical premise. Oh, yeah, nothing metaphysical about that weird shit you were doing with your books. But he's fronting for his colleagues. He's like, I wasn't doing anything weird. This is just serious, practical. I used to use the term. Let's just say, but that's Carl. Fronting. What? I don't know. To the psychologist, the anima is not a transcendental being, but something quite within the range of experience. Are you insinuating that it is impossible to experience anything that is transcendental? Or transcendental beings are impossible to experience? Oh, yeah, you are, because you're talking for psychology, because psychologists are like, yeah, it's in your head, dude. Yeah. Just like that. That's exactly how they are. No. Yes, a little. Again, it's confusing with layers. Where were we? Okay. For as the Chinese definition also makes clear, affective conditions are immediate experiences. But why, then, does one speak of anima and not simply of moods? Why do they speak of the devil instead of speaking of the evil of mankind? People like to personify things. Helps to externalize them so they don't have to take personal responsibility. It's to alleviate a feeling of guilt in these chakras and avoid confronting them. Never mind. Oh, you already know all this. The reason is that effects have an autonomous character and therefore most people are under their power. But as we have seen, effects are delimitable contents of consciousness, parts of the personality. As parts of the personality, they partake of its character and can therefore be easily personified. Yeah, it's a personification. It's an anthropomorphization. Never mind. A process which is still, first, take a thing, an abstract concept, and you anthropomorphize it. Then you personify it. Then you visualize it there before you and create it. Then step in and open your eyes from within the personification of the anthropomorphization of the abstract concept. Then you I don't know, you can write something, you can walk around your house and be like, oh, wow, I never, you can go to Taco Bell and trip out like you're seeing the columns of heaven for the first time. Or whatever, like, I don't know. But take it off afterward. They say I never do. But, I'm supposed to tell you to take it off afterward. Okay, never mind. What we have seen, the effects going on today. Right. The reason but, as we have seen, effects are delimitable contents of consciousness, parts of the personality. As parts of the personality, they partake of its character and can therefore be, we read this already, easily personified, a process which is still going on today, as the examples cited above have shown. What examples? The personification is not an idle invention, inasmuch as the individual stirred by effects does not show a neutral character, but a quite distinct one, different from his ordinary character. I have no idea what you're talking about right now, dude. The feminine, right, okay, what? Careful investigation has shown that the affective character in a man has feminine traits. It all reminds me a little bit like when occasionally, like those people who are like trying to deprogram gay people or make them heterosexual, like for religious or whatever bigoted reason, And occasionally you find one who'll be like, the thing is, every man has impulses to have sex with another man, but you got to keep it under control. It's normal to have those feelings, and it's like, Let's let the internet meme say it.
You are gay.
Yes. But what? Yeah. So I think that Carl and Freud. It's fun to observe how they're like. Well, I looked within, especially Carl, and things are like this. So I think that's universally applicable for all people, all humans. 8 billion people are just like me. Just in fun. Not saying he was completely wrong. Just not saying he was completely right. That's the thing. I forgot what I was talking about. All right. So, right. Deeper introspection. What? Feminine traits. Right. The affective character in a man has feminine traits. Right. Yeah. Everyone's just like you. It's okay. You can try it if you want. I mean, be careful. Don't go as crazy as Carl went at different points. You can kind of take it with a grain of salt. But if you want to talk to a lady voice in your head, if you're a dude, go for it. All right. It helps to give it definition, abstract concept, personification, all that kind of stuff, right? Or you can pick one of the prepackaged ones, the gods from one of the pantheons or whatever, goddesses. Or whatever, Virgin Mary, if you're weird, if you're nasty, Janet Jackson, Nasty Boys, I don't know, okay, all right, yeah, this psychological fact, using a loose definition of fact there, Carl. has given rise to the Chinese teaching of the Po soul. Oh, has it? So you are officially going in alignment with Richard Wilhelm's definition and saying that voice that helped you so much and gave you that severed ram's head that time, but also the crown of Jesus that other time, is your Po. Carl, I'm disappointed. All right. As well as to my concept of the anima, deeper introspection or ecstatic experience reveals the existence of a feminine figure in the unconscious. Therefore, the feminine name anima, psyche, or soul. I don't know why I'm doing slurred speech. I think Carl was drunk when he was writing this. I don't know what gives me that feeling. I just have it. It's very distinct. The anima can also be defined as an imago, or archetype, or as the resultant of all the experiences of a man with a woman. First is his mother, then you got... No, sorry, I'm just peeling back the curtain of the words to reveal the character of the person writing them, Carl. I hope you're less like this in this incarnation that you're now in. I don't know when he died. I don't know how old he'd be. Maybe he's 2 lives removed or 3 from that incarnation, if it's linear. Who knows if it's linear? I don't know. Or exists at all. Don't know. That's kind of part of the beauty of it, isn't it? Not knowing. Again, some people are like, well, I know. I have proof. I'm locked in. Oh, okay. It's more fun when you're not locked in. Just saying. What? Yes. This is the reason the anima, as a rule, is projected on the woman. As we know, poetry has often described and celebrated the anima. The connection of anima with ghost in the Chinese concept is of interest to parapsychologists, inasmuch as the, quote, controls, end quote, are very often of the opposite sex. Oh, he indirectly acknowledged the existence of women for a minute there. So, Carl, I just have to ask, if your soul is this earthly-oriented scum Po thing, if that's the nature of the lady in your head, is the nature of the men in ladies' heads to be the ultimate spiritual oneness that's just one and it's spirit, and when you die it becomes oneness, and then so it's your like own little divine droplet, and then it becomes one with the great divine droplet, and it's great. It's great now it's gotten rid of that lady. Is that the nature of the character of the higher self of ladies, Carl? It just seems like it's poorly thought out. But okay, we'll keep reading. Sometimes I'm a little bit antagonistic toward Carl. The longtime listeners won't be too surprised by that. But then other times I get into a groove with Carl. But today I'm a little bit, Carl. What are you saying, Carl and Richard? People of 100 years ago, you know. Sometimes it's the small differences can be more tedious and annoying. Like you can look at Martin Luther and he's enough of an alien to be like, let's study this specimen, you know. But he's also familiar enough because of his effect, because everybody's repeating what he said, that it's kind of interesting. Like you can talk to him like he's your uncle, but he's your weird uncle from a different century. Where Carl is kind of like, he could be one of the black robe-wearing members of the same cult that you're in, and you're all sitting in the same room together with that music and the incense burning, and he's over there saying shit like this, and you're like, Carl, what? Why? What? Because 100 years ago isn't that long, especially when you're Carl Jung. There's a lot of people that were alive 100 years ago that if you hear them talk, you're like, oh yeah, that you're 100 years ago, but okay. I mean, there's aspects of it that are clearly dated. But, you know, he was a trailblazer for sure. And many have marched on that same trail. And the most recent of which is going to sound probably the most annoying. I mean, as far as... Never mind. There's too much going on for me today in 2025. In my next life, or the one after that, I'll read about it in history books on a YouTube channel. What do you say? But as for this life, I'm more interested in people 100 years ago, 500 years ago, 700 years ago, 900 years ago. But partly because I'm asking the question, how did we get here? And no one else is looking back further than, like, if somebody is looking back as far as like the 60s, then everybody's impressed. You know, like, oh wow, you're aware of events in history, you know, and how we got here from the 50s. And it's like, well, there was stuff before the 50s though, besides just like World War II and the Great Depression and World War I. Even before that, there was stuff going on that helped to write the programming that you're running. You're running a mutated form of a program that took millennia to write. So let's look at it. Let's look at the source code for a while here on Chicken Philosophy. And what? All right. Well, thank you for tuning in. This was a weird one. This was a little. They're all a little different. Some of them are more the same. Some of them are this. Some of them are that. Anyway, I guess that's it. And Editor Edward, do you have anything that you want to add?
Just the reminder that the end screen for today is going to be Teilhard de Chardin Part 14, moving around different Catholic churches and convents in Shillong, Meghalaya, India. And down here is going to be Martin Luther Part 8, doing the same thing in the same place, but with Protestant churches. And I recommend them both, as boring as they sound. And yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, I will go ahead and say cheers. Don't forget to check out Aroma Garden when you go to Kathmandu. It's in Tamil. It's kind of on that upper right-hand side of Tamil, if that makes sense. If you're looking at a map, I guess that'd be northeast. The northeast corner of like those 4 or 5 blocks. Until next time.